Welcome everybody to Eye of the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. So today's reading we're looking at what is hidden that is emerging now for you. So this could be something that you've hidden from yourself. Your unconscious has sort of kept information down until it was the right time for you to know or realize something for your healing or for your benefit in some way. It could be something that others have kept hidden from you that is about to emerge. It could be something that's happening in the sort of macro world, politically, economically, something like that is important for you to know now, for you to get a sense. So we're asking Spirit to look at what will next be uncovered for you. And I'm going to look in it about things like, is this largely something that is more the macro world? Is it something that other people have either kept hidden or are going to bring forward for you? Is it something that's coming from imperatives and learning and healing and development within? So we get a sense about the nature of it, the sort of areas that it impacts, and then we'll use tarot to work out why it's emerging now, how you can benefit from it, and so forth, and give you some general advice. So that's the idea of the reading. In terms of the pile choice, I'll put down the numbers as I always do, because some people like to choose by the numbers, and that is as valid a way to choose as anything else. But what I also did is quite often, if you're familiar with my readings, you'll know that in the choice I might have a card to represent each pile. And quite often that's very consciously chosen. But in this case, I just used a particular deck, the astrology reading cards deck, and I shuffled and asked Spirit to tell me a card to represent each reading. And there will in fact be a second card from this deck in the reading. But that means that Spirit is indicating that there is something about the nature of this card that is involved in the reading. It's not going to be the total thing, but it gives you some idea. So it may help you decide. You don't have to decide based on this, but it may help you decide. So pile number 1 has the 5th house. So this indicates there's probably something emerging that is about matters that are covered by the 5th house in the astrology chart. So that's things like love, romance, children, creativity, so even the enjoyment of life. So there could be something in that space. We will nuance it with more information, but that may be something that draws you. The pile 2 has the sign Cancer. And Cancer is a water sign. It's very emotional, very sort of connected, very caring, very protective. Sometimes it has to do with family, parenthood, that kind of thing. But it could also be indicating this is something that you've either held very protectively or that it's information that's going to help you protect something of importance to you. So those are the sort of energies around Cancer. For pile number 3, we have the 11th house. That suggests that the thing that is being hidden or emerging has got something to do with friendships, social networks, maybe social media, all the sort of things around sort of wish fulfillment as well, sometimes luck associated with the 11th house. And for pile 4, we have Pluto. So that suggests something very transformative, something very taking a big leap forward, the kind of phoenix-like energy of the imagery on this Pluto card, something that has to do also maybe with, coming out of the dark night of the soul, that kind of issue as well. So that will be part of the reading, and that, as I say, I didn't particularly choose these. This is what Spirit wanted to indicate, as the other cards under here are as well too, just intuitively chosen, and I don't know what they are, so I don't know what we're going to see yet. But hopefully all of that, plus the numbers or whatever way you use to choose, you'll be able to choose your pile or piles. By all means, go to more than one reading if you're drawn in that way. When you know what reading or readings you want to go to, as always, I've got the timestamps in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome, pile 1, to your reading. So straight out of the gate, this is very deeply personal, and it's very, very powerful what's coming up. So if you've come to the right reading, then this is a date with destiny, basically. And that's what's emerging, but it's actually coming out of something in your own story, your own narrative, and something maybe that you knew but you forgot about yourself. Now, you could literally have known this as a child. When we come into the world, we often have a sense of ourselves and a connection to our higher self that is very pure, and that then we kind of suppress or forget because of the nature of the world, the very divisive and hierarchical and structured nature of the world. There is a sense of that around this. So this may be you coming into memory of that and what that means, but there's a big picture element to this. So to tell you why, firstly, to give me a sense about what is emerging in the area and why, I was using the Dreams of Gaia Tarot. And the intention in this was that when there was a major arcana card, and you have two, that this will either be, depending upon the nature of the card itself, something in the macro material world that is coming in and emerging for you to understand and see, or something coming from your spirit team. If there were court cards, it would be something that other people were involved in bringing to light, or potentially conversely involved in trying to hide, but it's coming up. And if there is minor arcana cards, it connects to your internal soul journey, your sense of self, your psychology, those sorts of things. So we have two major arcana and a minor arcana. And I feel the nature of the major arcana, when we have union and we have destiny, I feel a lot of this is coming from your spirit team, from your higher self, from all of those sorts of things. And so what is emerging is very literally a sense of who you are, particularly since there's a sense of liberation, creative liberation, and taking action associated with the Eight of Fire or the Eight of Wands. It's time for you to step into something that you were born to do. That's what's emerging at the moment. And you may very well have kept it hidden to yourself, or your spirit team may have kept it hidden until the right time. Now, I do get the sense with many of you that you maybe knew about this as a child and then forgot it. That's what I think is coming up. And one of the reasons that I say that is that we have, in terms of the illuminated part, soul's pathway cards, we have memories. So the sense of bringing back memories, depicted here as stones near an ocean shore. So the concept of bringing that energy back in, bringing the memories back in, and retrospect, the looking glass. This is about looking into your own story and how you write your own story. And the archetypes around this, we've got the artist, so something very creative energy in this in some way, very creative because of the fifth house. So I do feel for many of you that was what was drawing you to this, some form of creative message that you might have. It could be bringing in love with union, but I feel like this is bigger than that. If there is a relationship coming in and that's emerging for you, it's because it's part of a bigger destiny. Because this card, union, is really more about the union of peoples, tribes, and so forth. It is about the exact opposite of tribalism, really. It's about what brings us together, what is universal about us. There is something that you know or understand that is emerging that is about the unity of all. And maybe they're very divisive and often quite unfair ways that, sort of what is different between us is used against us and so forth, and has been, through history, really. So there is something emerging, a destiny, a creative message, a narrative that you could tell, an artistry that you could do. It's very psychically connected. Your sense of unity is very psychically connected with the moon there, and very much connected to your spirit team. But this is about realizing that you have a cause of some sort. It is about balance. It is about fairness. It is about unity. You have a destiny associated with that, but you are meant now to start to take action creatively to bring back what you used to know about yourself, either from earlier in this life or past lives, to use that to write the story that you want, but to create something, I think, that helps others see unity in some way. So very, very special energy for you around this time. And I think very necessary around this time. There's an enormous amount of, I think, quite deliberately created division, particularly through the media and so forth these days. So you're here and you're meant to be remembering, and what is coming up, what was hidden within you, is actually a creative genius to create your own life, create your own message, create your own art, whatever this is, to help people understand the unity rather than be sitting in division. So let's ask from Tarot, why is this emerging now? Why is it coming up now? Then we're going to ask, how does it benefit you? And then also, how does it impact others? So why is this coming up now? If this has been an innate power and ability you have, but it's emerging now, that it's been maybe suppressed. Because some of you may have thought, I'm not creative, but you actually are. In some way, you're going to create something. And so you may have hidden this to yourself. But let's see why it's coming up now. Okay. This is very much in the material world. So you're going to create something definitely, but like creativity has many forms. Some of you may literally be an artist and paint, for instance, but for others of you, it might be creating a new sort of work system, doing something in an organization. It could be political, it could be resource-wise. There is a lot about resources and about the structure of the world here, with the Seven of Pentacles reversed, the Knight of Pentacles, and the Four of Pentacles reversed. We also have this sense of breaking out of imprisonment and breaking away from conflict. So I think for many of you, you've found yourselves in conflict situations. It could be sort of emotional, it could be spiritual, it could be within your workplace, around friends. You've been around that and you've seen it, and you've come to a conclusion that a lot of this is petty and a lot of it is blown up in some way that isn't real, and that it's a kind of a straitjacket, that while we are kept in this sort of fighting with each other kind of energy, we are straitjacketed in some way. So I think you're going to start to see that. I think many of you in a workplace or in something, as I say, to do with money or business in some way, and it's coming up now because this is the cause that you will take on. You can see this is the law of diminishing returns. So it could be as simple as you are in a business and you have competitors, but actually if you join together in some way, you could actually do much more while you're sort of in competition. As I say, there's the law of diminishing returns with the Seven of Pentacles reversed. It could also be that you've tried to sort of establish a career, tried to establish something, and you've been in very divisive, competitive environments, and you are starting to see that that's not who you are. That's not what you can dedicate yourself to. You need to liberate yourself from those sorts of patterns. So it has a very material aspect to it, Pile 1, but it is destined. There is something that you knew, as I say, when you were young, or maybe in another life. I think, though, for many of you, it's when you were young. I think if you could remember the sort of dreams you had, and I suspect they were about connection with others and delighting in difference, but seeing it as being part of a broad rainbow that we're all part of, as opposed to things to divide. And somehow in your life, you've been caught in situations where the division almost created... It feels like being a rat on a treadmill, actually, like on one of those wheels. It feels like that kind of energy. You're coming to be aware of that, and you're working out what you can dedicate yourself to. So it's a time for you to act materially and creatively, to step into this destiny you have, which is more about, I think, role modeling to people, something about how creative freedom and difference, if it was then put in a more traditional sort of environment, if the same principles happened, how much richer things would be. So let's see how this awareness of what you have, what you can bring to the table actually, and take action, how that will benefit you. Okay, this is interesting. We've got the Eight of Wands reversed, and then we have the Eight of Wands upright. I always do dream of Gaia upright, but I think this is interesting. What this is saying is that one of the reasons that you felt a bit stuck in this situation, and that people often get stuck in this situation, is that they trade off the sort of freedom and thought and difference and freedom for a kind of sense of security, and you realise it's not actually working. So it's like if you had this sort of idea of destiny about something creative and unifying, but you didn't think it was going to pay the bills, so you settled and you went and worked in an office job, for instance. And nothing against office jobs, but you're a very creative person, so only certain office jobs would be able to really liberate that energy for you. It's like you've come to an awareness that it isn't really giving you the returns that you want, the growth that you want for some reason. So being more conventional has just stopped you. What you are meant to learn from this is the capacity to move forward even when you don't have a clear pathway, when it isn't as structured, when it's new, to go in. And there's something, you must have had a very adventurous nature, I think, when you were young in some way, and if you thought about the things that maybe the games that you played and who you saw yourself as, it's sort of like an adventurer, an explorer. This is coming up so that you know you can move forward with confidence without having, with the Six of Swords reversed, without having all the answers yet, that the sort of creative journey is part of it. And you can't have all the answers because it almost goes the opposite to what your ultimate message is. If you had all the answers, there'd be no need for unity because everybody would be the same. It's sort of like being comfortable with the diversity on a broader level. Is what is going to take you forward. You will move much quicker and with much more confidence when you're less worried about this is the set outcome. Okay, so let's see how this then impacts others. You coming to this sort of realization and this hidden truth about yourself, I think, which is a approach and a call to action and to creativity, how this impacts others. Okay, so this is going to be positive and negative depending upon the person that you're talking about, to be honest. For some, this is going to liberate other people from sort of kind of calcified ways of thinking, calcified ways of acting, liberate them from that, their own sort of imprisonment, allow them to sort of like you come into a situation where they don't have to have all the answers and they don't have to be best at everything. I think you're in a very competitive environment, or you've been around very competitive people and very power-oriented people. So for some, they're going to get it, they're going to see it, and they're going to release all those patterns. For others, you're going to get resistance. You're going to get ego battles. You're going to get people who try to second guess you. Sort of, you do need to be careful, you know, if this is around business or anything like that, look at the contracts, look at the details. There's going to be people who liked the imprisonment and aren't that happy, who thrive, in fact, on division and petty arguments. They got some of their power from that. So for some of you, there's going to be a pushback, definitely, as you start to come into your knowing of what you can do, because I think you're going to be very influential. And I think it's going to threaten some people. But others, this kind of energy goes both ways. Others will see this liberation and want to follow you. And kind of meet you at your level. So then you will get, you know, the sort of like the King of Wands here is probably very similar to you when it's working positively. So the kind of creativity energy, but also like people who really like the different philosophy, the different way of thinking. So some are going to be with you and some are going to be against you, but that's the nature of the battle. And that's why you have to stop trading off for security and be happy to sort of be in the journey, because that's how this destiny, it is destiny for you, emerges. Okay, so that means you're in a pretty heavy sort of environment. So let's get you some support. Let's get some archangel support, some animal totem, and some goddess or archetype support. Because I do think you've got a bit of a battle with this, and you've got to be comfortable with the fact that you won't have all the answers, that you just move forward with that sense of destiny. The Chariot card to me is destiny, so you've got it twice. So, and very psychic, you're going to be able to kind of pick up the environment, but that can also mean that you're picking up a lot of static on the airways. So let's see what support we can get for you, pile one. Firstly, an archangel energy for this emerging sense of self and creativity and purpose. Okay, so that's pretty strong, Melchizedek. So this Oracle deck kind of describes him almost as the grandfather of the archangel. So very wise, very old, very powerful. Incorporates all the colors of the rainbow. So again, this sort of like Melchizedek would understand the drive towards unity and towards celebration of difference, which is going to be part of what is emerging in you when you're going to start to create and show. So he's very much going to give you that sort of energy, that sort of wisdom, downloads probably, sort of psychically and creatively, channeling and so forth. So I think he's there to keep you on track and to keep you believing and understanding that this is a destiny, this is something that you're meant to do in some way. Let's see with animal totems, what animal totems might be able to give you energy and help you with this emerging, I think it's emerging talent and emerging voice. That's what we're really seeing here, that you've maybe kept under sort of strict regulation, or maybe you weren't even aware you had it until recently. You're going to start to see that these circumstances are pushing you into taking this role on, if that's the case. So we have swan, beauty. Okay, so there's going to be something beautiful in the way that you can say this, I think. So I think it is very creative. I think most of you, even though this feels kind of political, I feel like for you it will be expressed in something creative, something beautiful, something very artistic. So your contribution that way is that, and it's in many ways often the fastest and most effective way to bring about that sort of awareness in others. So Swan is there to bring beauty to your words, to your art, to your message. And then we also have Snake, which is about creation. So yeah, again, creativity and wisdom with the snake. I sort of think snakes, sort of says Gnosticism to me, says bringing wisdom and so forth. So there is wisdom, there is creation, is very creative. Like this is very much doubling down on it's a creative output in whatever creativity means for you. But there's beauty and there's a sort of regenerative, changing sort of element for what you're bringing about. But I think it's also celebrating the beauty of everything. Let's get you a couple of either goddesses or archetypes to also help you as this sense of self emerges. Sense of self and sense of life purpose, of destiny. The badass. Oh, I love it. Yeah. If people are threatened by you and pushing back, watch out. You are very true to yourself. This is you getting back to your inner badass, like knowing who you are and knowing what you want to express, and damn the consequences. I love it. It's wonderful. And Ixchel. So this brings sort of luck and the rainbow again, and sort of clearing away of energy and bringing in of joy. So this is a very joyful energy, actually, for all that I think you're in environments or you're dealing with issues where people have misused, I don't know, media or politics or something like that. But there's just such a strength to what's coming through with you. You're remembering who you are. That's what's emerging. And I don't know that you've known this about yourself, but once you actually start exploring it, watch out, world, here you come. Okay, so let's have a look at some sort of guiding lights or sort of energies and fate energies around this that can help you as well too. So firstly, I want to use the Aha Oracle just for what it can tell us about the sort of spiritual energies around what you're doing. Wow. So this is eternity. It's going back to destiny. It's going back to past lives. It's going back to, and it's also about the oneness of everything. So this is the point, union. There's something, you're here to do something in that space. I think it's primarily to creatively express it in some way, but you are here to sort of like bring back that sense about the connection of all. And, one of the reasons this may have been hidden is if you have been in contested areas, you may have found yourself being in that contest as well and falling into the same pattern. So, and that might have been a way of surviving those environments. And as I say, it was sort of like the deal with the universe about I'll be a bit conservative and I'll restrain myself a bit. Hopefully that will give me returns, but it's not doing that. This is what's coming up because you're meant to come into play with your destiny, and then action follows faith. So you have to be aware of that. You have to have faith that you are now following a destined path. This is what you're meant to be doing, because the road is not going to be instantly clear, because going back to this card here, which was about retrospect and sort of like working out who you are and writing your own narrative, that's the point. You're writing your own narrative, which means that it's not the established pathway. It's very much like the Robert Frost poem about the road less travelled. So choosing the road that was less travelled is an act of faith. So there's something about that for you. Let's have a look at some astrology energy and then also some fortune energy around this. Astrology and numerology, then some fortune energy around this for you. Last quarter, so that's breaking down the old and preparing for the new. So this is what you need to do now. You need to think about what hasn't worked and let that go, I think, to let this new energy through and to start to have this faith that you need. Third house, something about communication. Okay, so this is telling us that whatever this creative thing, it is about a message. It is about getting communication out. Many of you, it may be writing or something like that with the third house, things that have to do with Mercury, mercurial sort of energy. Could also be comedy, all the sort of things that are related to the third house around communication. And, so, some of you could be doing through painting or whatever, but I think most it's going to have some written thing. It could be a song, it could be a poem, it could be a novel, it could also be using sort of electronic sort of energies from Mercury in the third house around film and that kind of thing. So there's something about communicating your message. And some of the message may be formed by what sort of planets or signs you have in the third house, if you know that in your chart. And fire, going back to this, there's something very creative about this. It's about action. It is a call to action. Like what is emerging is a call to action, whether you're ready for it or not. Though I actually think you're more ready than you think. It's just remembering. It's just letting that emerge out of you again, pile one. So let's see with Lenormand just a little bit of fate energy around this for you as well. Ship. So yes, you're ready to go on this voyage. You're ready to go on this journey. And it's interesting with ring, there could be a significant relationship associated with it. If not right now, then coming in. If you do have that, it's part of that energy. And I feel like with the colouring of that to the Melchizedek, that's kind of like divinely guided, if that's the case. Book. I think some of you will write. Or there is study to do with book. There are things to be uncovered. And this whole reading's about uncovering something, but it's your book, it's your narrative. And heart, like it's getting back to the heart. But I do think for some of you, doing this, embracing this, brings in love as well, brings in union on that level. But it's on a bigger scale. This is not just sort of meeting the love of your life, though you may well, if you haven't already done that. But this is getting back to your heart, what you can be committed to and so forth. But the journey, it's about the journey and letting things emerge over time. Okay, so also under the card that brought you here, there was one other card which was for the end of the reading, which is a blessing card, so a blessing from the Fae. So I just wanted to close out with a blessing around what was emerging, because I didn't know some of these things that might emerge in some of the readings might be a bit challenging. And there is a challenge here, though I actually think it's quite a glorious one. But let's see what blessing can support you. So the blessing of Airmit. So this is very much getting to the natural world. This is about sort of herbalism, herbal healing, all of those sort of things. So I think this may be a support being sent to you for when you are dealing with sort of pushback, when you are dealing with sort of energy levels, because there's a lot of energy, a lot of passion around this. It would be suggesting to you that getting in touch with your body, looking at herbal sort of remedies, all of those sort of things might be a very good practical support, because there's a lot of fiery creative energy that you're going to expel, and in a environment, I think, where there is a push towards division when you're trying to do a push towards unity. So I think this is meant to be a blessing to give you some support to yourself physically while you're actually doing this act of creation. So I hope that resonates for you, Pile 1. I'm pretty excited about what you guys might bring into the world. I hope that you are too, and that you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 2, to your reading. So the way that this first part of the reading is structured is I'm using the dreams of Gaia to get a sense about, as I said in the introduction, whether or not this is something emerging because of someone else, because of macro factors, or because of something internally in you. And there's a mix of all of that for this. And it's interesting, the cards that are here, because there's a warning associated with this. And I'm kind of almost saying 2, maybe 3 ways of reading these cards. So this has got something to do with identity, whether it is yours or somebody else's. And it has something to do with whether or not you can always trust what is being said or what is being advised. Because we have the false light, the plague doctor here, which has a sense of something that is not real, something that is deceitful, something that is manipulative in the energy around this. It is possible that this is either something coming from someone else, or it could be about you or someone else in the sense of being different, and it's a much more macro issue. So it could be around how people perceive things, what they believe, what level of understanding they have for something that may bring about manipulation and distortion, either if they understand a lot but they choose to distort, or if it's they distort because they don't understand enough. There's some sort of energy around that. And this card with Cancer, there's something protective and caring. So you could be protecting and caring something very true to yourself or to someone else. And with Jupiter, there is wisdom and there is balance and there is luck and fortune around it, which is good. And we got the kind of caring energy here again with the wisdom. And the sense here with the purpose, with the serene swan, of coming to a clarity about how to navigate these more difficult waters. Now, one way of reading this, and it's very specific, is that you could be a parent of a child who is going through gender identity issues. Because this card is about getting rid of gender stereotypes. And if you think about it, whether it's in schools or society or whatever, there's a lot of perceived ideas about things like that, a lot of manipulation, a lot of issues around all of that. So this could be calling to you to be aware that your child needs your protection and your wisdom and sense of self. I get here that sort of sense of like the swan being a bit like the ugly duckling concept. If you have a child or someone close to you, it may not even be a child, it might be a sibling, it might be a friend, but somebody who is feeling that they've been made to feel lesser or ugly or strange because they're different. They don't follow particular stereotypes and they're in an environment that's very judgy about all of that sort of thing. This could be about you coming into your own energy and strength to help them with that. And even by example with the Nine of Wands here in the way that it reads for the Dreams of Gaia tarot, showing that sort of energy, showing that creativity, showing that sort of wisdom. So for some of you, you're going to become aware of something that's happening to someone that you care about, who is, and whether it's gender identity or whether it's a broader thing that could fall into those categories but isn't as precise as whether or not they feel they're in the right body or whether they're non-binary or something like that. It could be, they're a woman in a traditionally very male type of career and they're dealing with the issues around that, or vice versa. So for some of you, it's about that what's emerging is something where I think you are going to be protective, a wise counsel, and help them navigate an environment that isn't good. The other way of reading this is something you are dealing with, and it is you needing to find that wisdom from within and nurturing yourself because you're in an environment where you'll become more and more aware that there's been something manipulative and judging that is suppressing your true self and your true beauty in some way. But if there's something about this situation that is emerging now that can't be tolerated anymore, either because you're coming into your power, if it's about you want to expand and explore who you are, your perception has broadened far more than the rather draconian sort of environment that you're in, and you are remembering your wisdom and your capacity to protect yourself and love who you are, or you're doing it for someone else. So and it's probably a bit of both. It probably depends upon who's come to the reading. Let's ask with tarot why this is emerging specifically now. Why is this issue emerging now? Okay. I think it's emerging because either, the person that you're looking after, if it is someone that you're trying to support, or yourself, whichever it is, they or you are coming into some form where you're being seen or recognized. So this fits also with the Nine of Wands in the way that it operates for the Dream of Gaia. So it's almost as though you or the person that you're protecting has risen a bit and has been seen in some way. So the difference is therefore there's more attention being paid to it in some way. There's for some literally being known in the world stage on some level with the world there. Plus a sort of sense of completing of something. So it could be, for some it could be if it's a child of yours or a sibling or a friend, it could be they completed a qualification, they completed schooling, they've completed something and they have that recognition. So they've come to the attention of those that like to control. And there's a very strong kind of philosophical, my way or the highway type of energy around this. If it's you, it's the same thing. You have this is emerging now because if ever you were to understand that you were the swan, if ever you were to understand that you can be who you are and that this is too limiting, it's now, because luck is coming in. There's opportunities coming in. You graduated. You're not sort of the young, naive person anymore, if that makes sense. And there's an energy to try and control this operating that doesn't want you to come out of the kind of more limited sort of emotional energy that you were being held in, that will use emotional manipulation and mental manipulation. So there is something about that. And it could even be in an extended family. This might be why we sort of have this. It could be extended parts of a family where there's sort of like disapproval of something. There's definitely a sense of manipulation, emotional and mental manipulation, but it's coming to the fore now because you're in a stronger position, or this person is in a stronger position that you're trying to look after to really start to shine. So that's when this energy starts to kind of come in and try to limit. So let's sort of see how this emerging will benefit you or the person that you're protecting, or not so much protecting, but guiding and trying to support to come into themselves, if this is what it's about. So this is a kind of a necessary rite of passage to see this. This might be a bit of a shock, to be honest. You might have felt, say it was you, I'm going to operate like this is you now, but just apply it as though it was potentially someone you were supporting or protecting as well. But you may have felt like you belonged in an environment. You might have felt that you were accepted. You might have felt that you could fit in. But underneath, you had a sort of sense that you were stilling some of what you would want to say and not making choices that were important to you, because there was an anxiety around this, an anxiety to stay in this sort of situation. And I think something around love is triggering this. So it could be love if it is you being a parent or something, it could be love for the person this is going through, and you can't tolerate this sort of mental straitjacketing anymore because of love. It could be because you've fallen in love and it doesn't fit in with what your friends or your culture or your family like. And that's making you realise that you can't stay in that situation anymore. That you have to claim who you are, even if it's a bit frightening, even if there's some anxiety around it, because this is about love. This is about self-love. It's about love for someone you're protecting. You can't stay in that situation anymore. And it's very mentally taxing and very anxiety and kind of guilt-provoking, all those sorts of things. This is like a straitjacket that has to be broken in. That's the benefit of it, to use the power of love to find your own inner swan or the inner swan for this person that you're helping and so forth. So let's see how this impacts others. If you finally realise this, you realise you're in a false paradigm and that you need to be more true to yourself and not fit in with that, or that the person you're protecting needs to be more true to themselves. How does this impact others? It gives other people the strength to make choices from the heart, to not be afraid of that. So you become a little bit of an icon. If this is you and you say, so you might be in a very traditional sort of social group and you go, well, actually I've fallen in love with someone that wouldn't fit in with that and I'm going to do it. You become an icon. You become a symbol of the fact you can do it, that you being true to yourself, you can do it, and that it is possible to make decisions rather than suppress the emotional side of things. If you are literally protecting someone, then you're giving them strength to move out of this indecision about who they are or how they feel or how they want to love. Because it has got something to do with love or connection on some level, maybe, as I say, to do with gender or something broader, but it's in an environment that doesn't necessarily like it and likes to manipulate and gaslight. But you doing it for yourself or for someone else actually shows others that it is possible to do, that you can be strong enough to do this. You can stand up to whatever this is. So it's very, very beautiful sort of energy to sort of come through in either for yourself or for whoever else. And as I say, it doesn't have to be about gender or whatever. It's got something to do with love. It could be love of, what you want to do for a career. It could be love of a cause, I guess. I just think for many, this is about your personal identity, who you love, who you are, and how you've been straitjacketed by an environment or a number of environments that haven't accepted that and have tried to tell you you were wrong. This is you coming out roaring, going, no, I'm going to be the swan. I'm going to be serene. I'm not going to listen to the gaslighting anymore. Okay, so let's get you some supports for this, because that's not an easy thing for you or for the person that you're supporting to do, to stand up to very rigid and very manipulative environments. So let's have a look at an archangel energy to help you with this. Azrael. So this is very fitting because he's basically the archangel of transitions. So he's sometimes seen as the archangel of death. It's not about death, it's about transition, it's about change. It's like the death card, I guess, in the tarot, which is about choice and change. So being able to embrace that, being able to make the choices. This is, he comes at times of intense transition. Some of you here may either be going through something like a gender transition, or know somebody who is, or some other transition out of one particular political party into another. There's something where there is a big change going on, but it's very expansive, it's very positive, and it is breaking free from a false paradigm, like breaking free from the matrix in a way. So Azrael is here to help with that, the intensity of the transition, and potentially, I think, bringing in the love as a result of that. Let's get you some divine animal support as well. We have Jaguar, release, releasing that which was not working, releasing that which was defining you or somebody that you care about in a way that was not valid. Jaguar is very fierce, so that's Azrael's very gentle, Jaguar is very fierce, so you have the full gamut of what you need to deal with this very dark energy. Then we have Wolf, authenticity, and yes, to be true to yourself, or to be, for whoever you're protecting, for them to be true to themselves, because there's something very inauthentic about this paradigm or this structure that you or the person you're protecting is involved in. So this had to emerge, like the difference within you or the difference within this person had to emerge. It could not remain in this false paradigm any longer. So let's get some goddess or archetype energy as well. Demeter. See, we go back to the mother. And Kali, the fierce transition that is necessary, the fierceness that you need, or you need to sort of provide to someone else, as I say, if you're supporting someone else. But also, that sort of the decisions that Kali brings. But Demeter is about the mothering principle. So this may be mothering it within yourself. It may be finding that energy. Demeter may bring that to you. It also suggests the return of someone or something, yourself, the truer self, or if it's someone you care about, Persephone from the underworld. So this whole transitional sort of energy, Demeter is there to sort of welcome that back and welcome the sunshine and so forth. But Kali is a sort of strength of change. There's a lot of strength around this, and I think it's necessary. So in whatever falseness, and if you don't relate to it being about gender identity, love and so forth, it may be around just fitting into an environment and knowing you can't do that anymore. That's what's emerging. You have to transition, you have to change, and in doing it you're going to prove to others that it can be done. Okay, so let's get you some other spiritual advice or support or guidance. So let's start first with the Aha Oracle. Okay, so this card is sort of all about emerging again, the transition, the chrysalis emerging, like the butterfly coming up out of the change, the swan from the ugly duckling, all of those sort of things. And the time, allowing yourself time to seed that change and to bring that in. And then this is allowing time apart. So I think it is, finding the light on the hill and finding that time that's apart and finding what's sacred, what is true, what is loved. So I think it is definitely saying that this is not a quick process. It does need time. It also needs you to get yourself apart from this negative energy as much as possible, to find, if it's difficult to do, to just find a place within where you can commune with Azrael, with these power animals and so forth, with Demeter and with Kali, about going through that change and keeping that sort of sense of the sacred around it. Okay, let's see some astrology or numerology energy around it for you. Waxing gibbous moon, which is about clarifying goals and pushing past blocks. I think that there is blocks. It's interesting that as I was shuffling, so I was feeling that I needed to say that for some of you, if this is about you, what is emerging might be this need that you are different, that you need to shift out. And that this might be the first time you're really starting to realize it. It's like you've got to a point where you can't deal with the subterfuge and the falsity anymore. But it might be you haven't even realized yet. Again, a bit like as I kept getting these sort of ugly duckling sort of thing, like feeling like you were lesser in some way. Now you're emerging as a swan, and you know now who you are. You can't ignore this anymore. This is why you have to start to sort of push past blocks and clarify your goals. Who do you want to be? Or if it's, as I say, someone you're looking after, it's a similar energy they're going through. Libra, bringing things into balance. The balance of gender roles, the balance of all of that sort of thing. It's got something to do with balance. And T-square. So that's sort of like a pretty significant, it's sort of like two planets in square sort of, and then connected or pointed to by another planet. So there is a kind of a tension. So this is a tension. This is not easy. We'll just have a look at what planets are associated in the T-square. Saturn, Uranus, okay, Jupiter. Okay, so Jupiter again. This is saying that this balance, because this is a balance we're talking about, a kind of active balance between that which is sort of set in stone, the kind of the matrix, and then revolution. Jupiter is bringing benefic emphasis in to get that in better balance. So I think it could be saying that there is a way to still, if you have to be in this environment to some degree, but still be yourself, or if you can see, if it's your child and they're at school and they have to be at school, there is a way to balance the wish to completely revolutionize everything with what the structures are. And it's got to do with kindness, and it's got to do with sort of benefic energy coming through and sort of supporting. So there's something in that where you can not do a deal with the dark energy. That's not what this is about, but be able to navigate being in it and let the change still occur and allow the benefic energy of that change to come in. Okay, so let's also use the Lenormand for any sort of fortune energy around this. There's definitely a person involved in this. So this could be representing you. It could be, because again, let's not worry about gender roles here. It could be representing a person who's really a big influencer in the darker side of things. It could also be kind of representing an Azrael type sort of energy to help. Let's see what comes up with it as to whether it's a positive or negative influence. Book. This is about learning things, uncovering things, getting to the truth of things. This is the perception side of things. Mountain. It's big stuff. Yeah, big transition. And Clover, ultimately lucky. I think this is saying there will be someone who helps, someone who will help and guide and understand and see and bring information to help and help with this long journey. It's a lucky connection. So that's good. There is a good connection. If this is someone you've fallen in love with, and that's what's brought this about, it's a very good connection. It's uncovering this hidden energy. If it's you've realised that you can't fit in with this environment, or that you have to find a way to compromise but still be true to yourself, there's someone who will actually help you with that. So that's a nice energy to know. So I wanted to finish off with a card. This was also under the Cancer card. So this is to give a sense of blessing around this, because I felt these readings could be a little bit challenging, and I think this one is a little bit challenging, ultimately very positive, but I think challenging. So I wanted to get a blessing from the Fae to sort of close out the reading. So for you, a blessing from a fairy determined to help you. Okay, I think this is saying, there will be people to help you. Do not distrust everybody. Use your own perception to work out who you can trust, because an energy from the Fae will come through to help you, determined to do that. Either if you have felt that you've been so different and you've just got to be standing on your own 2 feet, or if you felt like you have to be the one who rallies to the support of the person you're protecting, don't feel like you have to do it all on your own. There will be help. This is part of this Jupiter energy. There is luck, there is beneficence. There are ones that will understand and will want to support you. So I hope that was helpful, pile 2. I hope that it resonates for you and you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. Beyond that, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 3, to your reading. So part of the sort of structure of this reading is to look with the dreams of Gaia, as I said in the beginning, about whether or not this is primarily something that's emerging in you or because of you, or because of other people, or because of something bigger, or from the spirit realm. And then looking at kind of the energy around this. And the way that this operates is that major arcana cards, to me, in this reading, in the intent of the reading, are something that is either from the macro world, like sort of something, it could be economic, it could be political, it could be something like that, it could be organizational change, something that's a bit transpersonal, but is impacting and bringing something to the surface to you, or it's around something that your spirit team is bringing in. And I think with the crone card here, that suggests someone in your spirit team. I think that there is a spirit team connection, a very wise woman, I would say, or wise, the crone energy, that wisdom, that sort of maturation, that understanding that comes with that is triggering this, because it is time, I think, for you to understand who you are and to step into being that more authentically rather than being behind the scenes. A lot of this is about love, potentially. It could be that you have just met someone, or you're about to meet someone, and that is what's going to bring this in with the Ace of Water and then the 10 of Water as well. Or it could be finding self-love and seeing yourself as worthy of love, of understanding that you don't have to be behind the scenes, because the 2 archetypes here, we've got the wallflower and then we've got fire. I feel that what is emerging in you is this fire energy, sort of sensuality, creativity, attraction, desire, passion, all of those things, but you've tended to sort of box yourself in, feeling like you're shy, or you're not able to be out in the world in that way, or you didn't feel lovable or something like that. And so I feel as though, as a result of a feeling that is coming up in you of love, either for another person or just starting to sort of touch upon self-love and understanding who you could be, there is an energy, a spirit guide energy around you to bring this to the surface. So you start to see the fire within yourself, because you've been in an environment with the 11th house and Libra where you've been very much about how do you fit into a social group, into community groups, into sort of friends and so forth. There have almost been rules of engagement. And I don't think they necessarily meant any harm or anything. I don't get a sense from this that you're around, bad people or anything like that. But I feel you second-guessed yourself all the time. With questions here, this card says that really that the truth and what you need is within yourself. But it's like you didn't feel, maybe you felt that, other people in the group were more beautiful or lovable, charismatic or something. Reality is that you are far more than you think you are. But you've kind of hidden that. So what is being hidden that is emerging is your beauty, your fire, your creativity, your charisma, rather than always being behind the scenes. You may have had friends who do take the limelight a lot and who like to have the last word. And again, I don't feel like they're bad. It feels like it's just very, very socially structured. Everything is done the right way. Everything's polite. So there's a lot simmering under the surface, and I think that it leaves you feeling like you're not sure if you can express yourself. But the energy that's coming up is your own soul story, who you are, what you love, who you want to be, who you are in passion. So the thing, and your your energy here, your spirit team says it's time to do that. You can't be the wallflower anymore. So I don't feel necessarily, we'll see what the cards say, that it's going to sort of, drop an atomic bomb into the middle of your friendship circle. I think you'll actually find you emerge in this and it's accepted far easier than you think. You move from the ace to the 10 far more easily than you think, but it's like you're coming into your own. It's like you're the debutante at your own ball now. You're actually coming out of that sort of sense of, do I have to second guess everything I say and do? You could shift social groups and communities, and that might do this. It's a possibility if you do feel that you're constrained where you are. But I think for most, it's just been a kind of a shyness or being unsure and feeling like others have the answers. You're coming into with the spiritual sort of sport, knowing that you actually have the answers. You had them all along, and you can then start to express yourself more. So let's ask why this passionate, fiery side of you is now to emerge. Like what is triggering that to come out now? So you've largely done this to yourself, not in a conscious way, but in a kind of like just a level of insecurity that we all have sometimes. So no criticism meant, but this is emerging out of you with your spirit team's help, so that you come into who you are and you realise that you can have your own rules in social circumstances, and you can be much more happy to be open and centre stage sometimes. So let's ask from Tarot why it's coming up now. Okay, so it's interesting that the 11th house might have been what drew you here. It was certainly what Spirit was sort of suggesting as a key card for this, because it was the one for the choice. I do think for some of you, there has been a little bit of drama around a social environment, and you're feeling like it's time to voice your viewpoint in that environment. There just seems to have been, with 10 of Wands, a sort of drama and burden and so forth. Maybe a lot is under the surface around the groups that you're mixing with sort of on social media, or that you're mixing with more socially in general. So there's a kind of a call to express yourself more. You know that you need to do that. Something has not been fair. With the World reversed and the Six of Pentacles reversed, I feel like that the full sort of like potential of these groups has not been fully realised, and it's partly because it hasn't been fair. So for some of you, you may well have been in a group or social activities where there were people who were very narcissistic or dominant. Again, not necessarily, I don't get a sense of really bad, I just get a sense of, maybe a bit egotistical or something like that. It's people who wanted to be centre stage all the time. And I feel like there's a person that's triggering. Now, this could be someone that you've become attracted to. It could be someone who's attracted to you. And this is not about gender, but the King of Pentacles, very grounded, earthy sort of energy, very sort of strong, mature. Someone who might have even come into the social circle and thought, my goodness, this is all very childish or something. There could be something like that. And I think that you're getting a connection with this person, and they're seeing you in some way. I think you're being seen in some way. If this hasn't happened yet, I think it's coming. And I think this opens up your heart, whether you fall for the person or not. It's going to depend on who comes to this reading, but there's a trigger for this. It may even be that this person is somebody that people compete over in this environment. So what seemed to be very nice and very polite suddenly becomes a bit dramatic and a bit like, who gets to have the attention of this person? But it brings you out in some way. So whatever it is, it's some sort of, kind of extra drama or competition or something around that in what appears to be a very nice environment. And overall, it's not bad. I don't think it's a bad environment, but I think what's meant to emerge, what is happening, what your spirit team want you to see is that you are just as much right to be in the spotlight, to have the attention, all that kind of thing as anybody else. So let's see how this benefits you. This emerging understanding of yourself and that you can take a different role. Wow, 10 of Cups, 10 of Cups. I do think for many of you this is going to bring love in. Or if you've been, if you're already in a loving relationship, it's going to sort of reignite it in some way, and you come to a sort of like a much more passionate sort of thing. It might have been that it was a love relationship where the other person did all the pursuing, and now you're kind of seeing that you can express yourself emotionally. But certainly there's something very deeply satisfying emotionally that comes from this, and it comes from you understanding your own ability to talk, to communicate, to write your own story here with the magician. You have a lot of ability in this sort of area. You've just kind of hidden it, even from yourself, I think. It's like this was necessary, this sort of connection with someone, as I say, whether it's a romantic love or whether it's, it's sort of like a friendship, but it's a very strong connection emotionally. There's sort of something which was meant to sort of bring great happiness to you and a much better sense of who you are, and to get rid of any energy that was not authentic. There may be with this, even though I feel overall your social networks are not bad per se, there may be a little bit of narcissism, a little bit of histrionics. It's to shift that stuff out so that you're with your right people and that you're happy and happy in yourself. So it's almost like, if you're on a social media platform or something, it's sort of moving from sort of being someone who's sort of watching to somebody who has your own channel or runs your own group or something. This was meant to happen to inspire you, to make you happier. Let's see the energy for others as a result of this. Okay, so this is picking up, I think, whoever's going to shift out of your life. Others are going to be going to push back a bit, because they're going to be like, hang on, I like to be centre stage. Why aren't I centre stage anymore? And a lot's going to come out about kind of like almost spiritual manipulation. Some of you may be involved in a spiritual group actually with this, and you might have been very much feeling you were there to learn and to listen and so forth to those that sort of had established it or whatever, but you're going to come into your own power, your own understanding. And this may actually show up where there are people who are kind of pretending to have that but not really having it. It's going to bring a lot out around this. I think it's like a clearing out energy though. I think it'll be good. I think in the end you'll be with your right people and so forth, and be much more who you're meant to be, which is much more that fire energy rather than the wallflower. And you'll do it with great diplomacy. Like you're not going to sort of, it's not a crash or crash type situation. I think it just sort of works its own way out. But those that were all about, I want to be the most psychic person in the room, for instance, or whatever it might be, if it's spiritual, even if it's not spiritual, even if it's, I don't listen to any of that sort of stuff. I know all the answers. I don't need any sort of spiritual guidance or whatever. The crone's helping you out. This will bring this to the surface. So there is something under the niceties of groups that you're in, and there is some competition. And as I say, if it's around spiritual stuff, there's some people who want to claim to be all that, and a box of dice as well, but they're not really that. And it's going to bring that to the surface when you start to rise into who you are, and or if they're competing for the attention of someone, like a new spiritual teacher or something, potentially. Okay, so let's have a look at some support for you. Let's first of all get an archangel. I think you've got, a crone already is going to support you a lot, and your own sort of understanding of yourself. You're going to work out you're a bit of a powerhouse, really. But all these transitions, if there's a transition around social groups or community groups or spiritual groups you're in or whatever it might be, and there is pushback, and there will be, then, you do need a little bit of, spiritual team to help you out. So let's see what archangel can help you. Zadkiel. So he's the archangel of freedom and of rising above sort of like restrictive sort of situations, things that aren't real or whatever. So I think he is there to just liberate you from the energies that were holding you back or making you feel lesser, so that you can step into who you are. It's interesting, in this deck he's depicted as Saint Germain, so that sort of sense of very long-term life and long-term wisdom and so forth as well associated with that. But certainly he, I think, will help you rise above the petty sort of stuff and stay focused on what it is to be free and authentic to yourself. Let's get you some divine animals. Raven, news. Okay, so you're going to hear something. Raven's bringing you some information. It's going to bring some stuff to the light. And in fact, it may even be the beginning. I just think there's a person who triggers a lot of this, and there's almost competition for their attention. Or so, it feels like that. So there's news associated with that. This whole shifting of the gears around your sort of social networks, it's going to be some news, and Raven is bringing that so you get the clarity and so that you can sort of use this freedom energy. We also have Deer, power, and bringing you power. Bringing in the energy and the power to be who you are, bringing in that fire energy. It looks like the sort of fire energy, moving from feeling like the wallflower and the person who's the onlooker to somebody who's center stage. But there's news, there's something that brings that in and triggers it for you. Let's get you some goddess or archetype support as well. Amaterasu, and the crone again. Wow, okay. The crone definitely wants to make her presence felt, that's for sure. And in this deck, she's telling the truth. So I think this is the sort of connection, the wisdom and telling the truth. Something is triggering this. Something is triggering your position within a social group. It could well be the truth that comes up, the news that comes up when somebody is being competed for their affections or for their attention, picking up the King of Pentacles. But beyond that, it just might be that things are going to come to light. And the more that you start to shine your energy, the more it comes to light. So the more that it clarifies it. And there could be some pain associated with it, but it's for the good in the end. It's for you, because it's to show you you're good enough in yourself. It's the Amaterasu is very much shining light. And it's the same sort of energy as the fire, and it's the same sort of energy as the deer. So this is meant for you to step forward and to be seen and to be recognized and to come into your power. But I think it's going to shake up a group in some way. So these energies are to help you with that. Okay, so let's get some other spiritual sort of guidance. We'll use the Aha Oracle to just see what else we can see about this new you, I think, that's emerging. The true you, rather than the polite, get along with everybody you. Not that there was anything wrong with that, but I just think it's time for you to step into your power. So these cards are indicating that there is quite a bit of commotion in a way involved in this change. It's going to stir some stuff up with the 49 being here. It's sort of like things sort of being in constant motion and trying to sort of balance out and so forth. So there will be a period of, storming, norming and forming sort of around it as the new social order comes into being. But the frog here is a promise of great benefit for you in coming out of this. There are many new beginnings, many new it's a very fertile, healthy thing. It does say, think about your health, look after your health. If there's emotional sort of pushback on this, sort of make sure that you have the right sort of boundaries around to protect your I think, emotional health and your intellectual well-being as this is going on, because there will be a period of time in this where you emerging and coming into the light is going to trigger off very interesting reactions, and some of it will be great. In the end, with that 10 of Cups twice, it's going, and with now the frog there, it's going to be really good how this comes out, but it just might be a little bit discombobulating for a while. Let's see what astrology or numerology energy can help you. Saturn return, masculine. Yeah, this King of Pentacles, action. It doesn't have to be a man. And midheaven. Okay. So there's something about this in the end that's going to be about your career. For some of you, this may be a social network or group that is connected to, say, social media in your own business, and you may be stepping into being really recognized and getting ahead of the pack. And if that's the case, it's going to get some real pushback from others who think they should be still king or queen pin. So there's something around that. There's something around you coming into your power and not being a wallflower anymore, being that fiery energy and being happy and potentially in love as well, which is going to impact your personal presence in the world, how you're seen in some way, your career. This is a call to action, I think, with masculine, but it could also be saying that sort of the energy of the masculine and feminine balancing out. Masculine action along with the sort of feminine wisdom of the crone coming up twice. Saturn return also, I think, is connecting to the crone. It's to do with time. It says this will take some time to occur. So it's not going to happen overnight. But having said that, it is about maturation. It's about coming into who you are and understanding with Amaterasu that you are enough in and of yourself, and that you are meant to sort of more be a leader within a social group rather than just an onlooker. Okay, so let's also see about some fortune energy using Lenormand. So this is a bit more about sort of factors outside of your control that could be influencing how this hidden energy is now emerging. Stars. So that's very positive. Crossroads, but there are choices. Okay. Key. Fox. Okay. So this is saying, following your North Star, this is about your sort of life path and direction and so forth. And it's a very positive card. It says that there are some very positive choices for you that are key to everything. But part of the key of making those choices is knowing who to trust. There will be some in this that you shouldn't trust. If they start to react badly to you starting to shine in the sun, you're going to know who they are. But some of them may be a bit more subtle than that. It may not be quite seeming to be competition, but it just might be a little passive aggressive, a little digging at you and so forth, a little bit of, undermining you, or even doing stuff behind your back. Though we didn't get the birds. If we got the birds, that would be more likely. But there's something here. There's a very important choice. It's very good for you. It's the key to everything, but you do have to be careful who to trust and who to listen to. Okay. So to finish off, there was one other card that was under the 11th house with the first cards that I laid out, and this is a blessing from the Fae, because I wanted to end up with a blessing because I felt all of these will have a challenge. If we're talking about hidden things that are emerging, either something within yourself or something in a situation, and it's a bit of both here, the situation of the social group and then also what's emerging in you, which is that sort of sense of power and love and passion and creativity and so forth. That can be challenging. So I just wanted a blessing from the Fae to finish off the reading. So, oh, lovely. A blessing of rapture. This is again saying this is going to be wonderful. Like what comes out of this is going to be wonderful. The 10 of Cups coming up twice, the sense of the frog with the sort of the outcome is going to be very beneficial. It's going to do something for how you are in the world. You have the diplomacy to deal with this. All of that, you have all of it within you. That's what I think, and you are ready, you are mature enough to do this. You will get some pushback, there will be some people not to trust, but in the end, this is going to be glorious. And the crone can see that. She's seen it already in terms of the whole weave of your life, and I think she's here just to take you in this step to get to that much more rapturous and happy situation. So it's very good news, but there's a little bit of like conflict or pushback that you're going to have to navigate, and just give yourself time to do that. So I hope that resonates for you, Pile 3. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 4, to your reading. So the way that this is structured, I'm using the dreams of Gaia. As I sort of mentioned in the introduction, I want to sort of get a sense about whether this is something that is emerging primarily within yourself, as part of yourself, whether it's emerging because of external factors on a macro transpersonal level or through your spirit team, or whether it is emerging because of other people. And this, the basic concept was major arcana could either be spirit team or the kind of macro world, the transpersonal world, that court cards would be other people were key, and that the minor arcana would be more you. Now, it's interesting because I think this is quite layered, because and in one way, almost this framework, it works, but it doesn't work for this. And I'll explain why. In as much as the major arcana card, I think here is talking about your higher self, so connected to your spirit team on that level, but it's still the card of self. So it's very much about you. This is very much about you. And I think it's you coming out of a period of darkness, disappointment, maybe brokenheartedness, maybe disappointment around something you were trying to achieve creatively or in your career. There's some really deep pain that you are processing and using your higher self to process that is bringing out who you are and what you can do now and go forward with. And I think a set of skills that you maybe didn't even fully realize that you had, which I will get to. So this process of pain and the dark night of the soul and the Plutonian transformation with the 5 of water reverse, it's an emotional thing to birth a new creativity, a new passion, a new direction. So for some of you, it could have come from a broken heart, and this could then be triggered through the healing process that can bring in a new passion. So it's almost as though there was a step before this, I think, where maybe someone else was involved, because it feels like you were disappointed by someone in love or in some other way. And you've had to go within, and going within at a very forensic level, at a very scorpionic level, at a very Plutonian level, you've gone through the dark night of the soul. So what is emerging is coming out of the dark night of the soul, that sort of sense of, who are you, and connection with the divine, but also connection with others, and what do you have to process. So this has not been easy. This scenario, if you've come to the right reading, you've gone through something pretty significant, some great grief or loss or heartbreak. It is to birth something new in you, but you've had to go through this process of really delving within to understand yourself, probably on a level that you've never done quite that deeply before, though I get the sense that you probably do it a bit quite naturally. But there's something very profound here. What it's bringing in, the message that it's bringing, is who you are, which is a communicator. You are meant to communicate something. You're meant to be starting to sort of live into this archetype. And you have guidance energy and Mercury, the communication energy around this, angelic guidance around you to help here. Now, the archangel that looks over Mercury is Michael. So there's a sense of power, mastery, and sometimes even going into a battle associated with that. So some of you may be meant to communicate something now, having gone through an injustice, to revive the possibilities around what was unjust. It may also be to better communicate who you are, so you bring in a passion that doesn't break your heart. There's something in that space which is emerging, but I don't know that you fully knew how good you were at this. It's almost like you could have gone through a heartbreak and then you wrote a poem and it was just extraordinary, and it was like, oh my God, I never knew I could write. Or this opens you up to your kind of like mercurial angelic energy that messages come to you, channeled messages and so forth. So it makes you realize that there's a sort of electric kind of psychic energy coming out. But it's come out of a very difficult time. And it's come because you can go to the depths. This is something that you're learning. What's emerging is from the depths, but that's because you have the bravery to go down there, and you will find you have the way to communicate this. You will find, you could write an amazing novel, as I say, an amazing song, an amazing poem. You could get up on stage and communicate what you've been through to inspire others to be able to deal with their dark nights of the soul and get over loss to come into new creative energy. This is you emerging out of the pit, basically. That's what it's emerging. It's you, but it's a you that is highly mercurial, highly clever, very, very articulate, all of those sort of things, and connected to the angels, connected to a message that I think will help not only you but others. But it's been hard won, Pile 4. So let's ask Tarot. We're going to firstly ask Tarot about why is this emerging now? Like what is sort of really triggering this emergence of you out of the dark night of the soul, I think, and as this sort of Mercury figure. Why is that happening? Why is that happening now? Okay, for some of you, this broken heart, and you could be either side of the gender, or it may be, gender neutral in terms of the relationship, but for some of you, there was a competition for who had the most passion, the most creativity, the most charisma. There was something like that. It's almost as though you were involved with someone and then you were constantly in competition with them, and they suppressed a lot of your energy. It may have appeared like you had a lot in common to start with, but there's a lot of cold, calculating energy around the person who seems to be more satisfied in themselves, and it looks like you were silenced. So I think that for many of you, you were in a relationship, whether it was a love relationship or a creative partnership or whatever it is, where you were not outclass. This person isn't necessarily, they're not actually as good a communicator as you, I don't think. They kind of bully their way into suppressing the words of others. But it could be that, if it was in a love relationship or something, it was a little bit hard to distinguish that energy and what was going on. And they made it seem very, very attractive. So that's one way of reading it. The other way of reading it is, in fact, that you've come across someone, but you're not feeling ready to be around them yet. So if the Wand's energy is actually working okay, you could be just suppressing some of your own capacity to communicate that connection, sort of sitting in this sort of straitjacketed sort of thing, when in fact there is actually something good. So it depends on whether or not this is a positive energy. If this is reflecting someone who broke your heart or who competed with you, stole an idea, whatever it is, then you are now emerging, having understood the dynamic and how you let that happen in a way. Not sort of consciously, but you kind of let it happen. You felt a little bit outclassed and by someone who really wasn't a higher class than you. If it's someone new coming in, then this is about you starting to claim who you are rather than sort of living in the past sort of unhappiness and this sort of very icy sort of feeling of the Five of Swords there. So let's see how your emergence from the dark night of the soul and your understanding about your extremely strong communication abilities, how that's going to benefit you. Okay. For a start, you're going to sort of literally be able to come out, from whatever this was. You are going to communicate. You're not going to sit behind the scenes. You're not going to let somebody else have, the first place in whatever this is. You are going to be able to speak. And it's like it relieves an enormous burden from you. It's almost actually as though on one level you did know this about yourself, but you felt like you had to suppress it for some reason. Maybe you were very, very precocious when you were young and in your family, and that was not approved of in some way, and you were, children were to be seen and not heard or something like that. Like there's relieving of a burden that allows you to express something that was within you, and to tell your truth. There's also the potential of like a new beginning, a new relationship, a new business, a new career opportunity. There's a lot of material benefits that could come from you recognizing this skill because it's prodigious. And you escape from the more traditional ways of looking at things. You are clever enough to do that. Understanding who you are in yourself and your creative energy and so forth. It's like maybe you tried, for some of you, to fit into an environment, a work environment, a school environment, something like that, and it just didn't work. It was just really disappointing because you're actually ahead of it. You're too different. So you're going to realize that. You're going to relieve the burden of feeling like you have to fit in so that you can create something that's new to yourself. Let's see how it impacts other people. Okay, so there's definitely some people around you who are going to find this a little bit emotionally difficult. There may literally be someone who feels a bit guilty. So if this was not a broken heart from, say, a relationship, it was, maybe parents who brought you up who now suddenly see what you could do, or a friend that kind of made you doubt yourself and then you come forward. There may even be a bit of guilt around this person, potentially. So, or, if it is someone who broke your heart, it may be that they sort of think, oh, wow, I let the right one get away, sort of thing. There's something like that. You seem to create an incremental change in other people. They are not as resilient as you to go down into the long dark night of the soul, so they can't face the tower full on, but they can face it in a reversed way. They can start to sort of adjust what they do. So it's kind of working on a few levels. It could be, as I say, someone who hurt you, who starts to feel a bit guilty and works out they need to do something differently. They realize, as I say, they let the good one get away. It could be someone who competed with you who again starts to realize this isn't going to work anymore. They have to adjust what they do. It could also be people that see your example when you start to talk about this, who start to realize that they don't have to feel guilty about what they feel. They can make the changes in their life that they need to make. They're not as sort of victim to the feelings and the emotions and overwhelming emotions, because you've gone in and you've shown how you can deal with that and you can crystallize it into something you can communicate. Okay, so let's have a look at some support for you going through this process. coming out of the dark night of the soul and becoming Mercury. That's what it sort of feels like. So let's see an archangel energy to support you. Pile 4. Oh, that's interesting. This one came up for others, Melchizedek. So there's a lot of really higher order archangel knowledge and energy around this. This is like kind of, it's probably another archangel actually that's talking directly to you. In this deck, Melchizedek is seen as like the grandfather of the archangels. So a great deal of wisdom. All the colors of energy sort of like are incorporated within very, very powerful sort of energy. So this is, I think it's just adding more power to this sense of the message that you can take out and the kind of order of archangels that are connecting with you. So that's pretty good. Let's have a look at divine animals that can support you. Because really, I mean, I think once you realize who you are and how you can communicate, you probably don't need a lot of support, but nevertheless, it's always good to have it. So let's see what divine animal energy is around you as well. Honeybee, reciprocity. Okay, so I think that's picking up this energy here. I think that something in what you're going to communicate is going to help others and free up, make things fairer, and I think when you sort of give and communicate, you're going to find that comes back to you. It's going to be a better energy for you, a sort of more reciprocal and shared energy. And we have tarantula, connection. So you'll find the right connections with the right people. And if you are looking for love, you will find the right person. And if this is somebody who's come in, once you start to shine, that connection will be clear, and it will be a very balanced energy of the two, the king and the queen, so to speak, in the suit, sort of well balanced. Let's look at some goddess or archetype energy as well. And excuse me, if you could just hear my stomach rumbling. Must be getting close to lunchtime. Okay, goddess or archangel energy. Namaka and Bast. Okay. So Namaka is interesting here because she's really a goddess of consequences. And there is a story behind this of her being able to take vengeance when it was necessary. So I think that Namaka is here to make sure once you actually understand your power that you use it appropriately. If there have been people who betrayed you romantically or otherwise, or friendship, they're going to have their comeuppance. That's really shown in those 3 cards with the Queen of Cups, the Tower reversed, and the Nine of Swords. So let that sort itself out. Namaka will deal with where you have been wronged, if you have been wronged. But she's also there to make sure you understand the consequences of what you do. So when you come into understanding the degree of power you have with your communication, you then have to hold yourself in strict regulation about doing it the right way. You can have fun with it, however, with Bast. You can have joy with it. You can bring in a harvest and start a job. You can start a business. You can do anything like that. But I think Namaka is just there to sort of say, like once you suddenly, they say that sort of thing about, like if God wants to really test someone, they give them good fortune, or they give them power, or they give them money, or whatever it is. It's the test of now moving into your power to make sure you understand the consequences of your actions and so forth. I think the fact that you can go into the dark night of the soul and be very authentic in that space, I think that will help with that. But if there's ever any sort of like moral ambiguity around what you're dealing with, call on Namaka to make sure that you stay on the right path there. Okay, so we're going to get some other spiritual support and advice or energies around this for you. Firstly, from the Aha Oracle. That one came up for another as well, so some might have gone to a couple of readings. In combination, it's a very beautiful set of cards, though, because the frog is basically saying that there is good fortune coming. Whatever you've been through, whatever has put you in the dark night of the soul and now brought out this incredible mind and incredible understanding and incredible communication ability, you're going to reap rewards from it. And part of this came from grace. This is about grace. Grace is probably the most powerful force in the universe, in the sense that it is where it isn't even about right and wrong, though I do feel that you've sort of been on the side of the angels literally around all of this. But beyond that, it's like the grace to take you through that, to and to bring out this incredible skill that you have, for you to understand that ability that you have. Grace is with you and good fortune is with you. So I think it's saying, you really can't go wrong. It's just then, how do you deal with good fortune? Do you understand how to pay it forward, sort of thing, is about the only thing that might be sort of underlying, Namaka turning up. Or Namaka, I'm not sure how you pronounce her name. So let's have a look at some astrology or numerology energy around this for you as well. Sextile, so we'll have a look at the planets. It's suggesting this is easier than you expect. Sagittarius, this is picking up the fiery energy, the creativity, and kind of a connection, whether it's love or whatever it is, around philosophy, around sort of beliefs and so forth. And one, yeah, I think for some of you it will bring in a very significant relationship, but it also shows the sort of circle of life, the sort of like, you are one, coming back to yourself and so forth. Let's just see the planets around sextile. I'm just going to deal out till I get the planets. Pluto, wow, Pluto again. Okay, so this transition, this dark night of the soul will go easier than you expect, and the energy that will help it go easier is your own psychic ability, Neptune. Your own sort of connectedness to everything, your own connectedness to the self and to the angels and so forth. So you find being in the dark night of the soul, I mean, it's tricky for everybody, but you find it easier than most. Okay, let's see if there's any external sort of fortune energy that you need to be aware of as this emerges. Lady, so there's a woman associated with this. You could be that woman if you're a woman or you identify with being feminine, but it could also be another person. Fish, there's money to be made. Good fortune coming in. It's saying it again, good fortune is definitely coming. But you need to be aware with mice that others may want to take some of it. So just as the good fortune comes in, it's also like don't kind of think about the consequences of any kind of arrangements or connections you make as well too, because it could become the law of diminishing returns if you aren't careful. I do think with your very strong mind you'll be able to work that out. And Lily, even if in fact what it's saying is that there is some really great benefit coming in. The only thing at the moment that could affect it is if you almost stay in some of this energy of the dark night of the soul and let that eat away on the fortune that's coming through. You really need to believe in this. And I think there might be someone, because of that Queen of Cups reversed there, a female or female identifying or kind of, feminine feeling person that maybe might eat away at your confidence or eat away at that. There's a competitor, I think, in some way. Just to be aware of it, because the good fortune is meant to come in, but you just need to understand you've come out of that phase and not to listen to that and to use your own communication skill, because there is something external around it that you need to be aware of. Okay, last but not least, with the Pluto card and the others in the first part of the spread, underneath that was also a card from the Fairy Blessings deck. So I wanted to finish on a blessing. I wanted to make sure that we had a positive energy just in case these were difficult. And I think this is basically very positive, but there is, there's something to negotiate around the people. So let's see what blessing the Fae want to give you. A blessing of the liminal space. Okay, this is the Neptunian side of things and being able to be in Pluto. This is about the blessing of being able to move between the worlds. So you can do that. You can move between the worlds. You can heal as a result of that. And that feels a bit shamanic. All of that kind of energy. You are very, very skilled at that. And Melchizedek is that's probably one of the reasons why that's there. And as I say, a feeling of Michael, of strength. So you're able to move between the worlds, between the light and the dark, between the sort of various levels and dimensions in a way that will help you really bring about the promise of this incredible mind and communication skill that is emerging in you. And you will be able to heal from the heartache that triggered all of this and eventually understand that it was a blessing that actually brought you to who you're meant to be. So I hope that resonates for you, Pile 4. I hope it is a positive reading and encouraging for you, because I do think you've been through a bit, but I think what's going to come out of it is amazing. I'd love to hear about it in the comments if you care to share. But beyond that, I hope that I see you in future readings.